Initial bids for Manchester United are due to be received by the end of this week, and Qatari investors are due to submit a bid to Rain Group. What does this mean for Manchester United, considering there may be a link to Paris Saint-Germain? What do the rules state? And is there a risk that Manchester United may not be able to compete in the Champions League? Stay tuned as we look into the rules further. At present, there's only one public bidder for Manchester United, in the form of Jim Ratcliffe, the entrepreneur from Oldham and Manchester United fan. But there may be some stiff competition from a Qatari investment group later in this week. It's been reported that Qatar wouldn't be interested in a minority stake of the club, but would be willing to consider an acquisition of the whole club. Alongside that, they would also consider rebuilding Old Trafford, and it's likely that they could stump up the £5 billion asking price from the Glazers. So does that put Qatar in the hot seat to acquire Manchester United? The biggest obstacle for Qatar to get over in terms of acquiring Manchester United is to get over a hurdle put in place by UEFA around multi-club ownership. Qatar already owns Paris Saint-Germain through an investment vehicle, Qatari Sports Investment. And UEFA rules stipulate there cannot be common ownership between two clubs competing in the same competition. And since Paris Saint-Germain are the French champions, they would take priority over Manchester United unless they were English champions, as per the rules. But what do the rules actually state? If we look at this through a UEFA lens, we need to look at Article 5.01 of the UEFA Champions League regulation. And that stipulates specific criteria about clubs or common owners holding shares or interests or being able to influence or manage other clubs in the same competition. So surely this presents a problem for Qatar in the form of Manchester United competing in the Champions League, or not if it's owned by an entity which controls another football club competing in the UEFA Champions League, which it does. So unless it was planning to sell Paris Saint-Germain, is there any other alternative? Now, we don't know the investment vehicle that would be proposed by Qatari authorities to acquire Manchester United. If it was Qatari Sports Investment, it would be difficult to argue there would be a lack of common control. But if it was another vehicle that was separate to Qatari Sports Investments, then it may be more plausible. The common link being Sheikh Tamim of Qatar, which could sit over two investment vehicles. And if Qatar can prove that there is no commonality of management, no executive decisions, no footballing decisions that are being made across the two clubs by one person or a collective group of individuals, then it may be argued that there is not common control in the operational sense. What strengthens Qatar's case is the precedent that's been set by Red Bull in the case that's already gone to UEFA's club financial control body to rule around commonality of ownership and management for RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg. Although the two clubs compete in the same UEFA competition and have commonality of ownership, UEFA's CFCB are comfortable and have ruled that Red Bull are unable to exercise decisive influence over the decision-making of either club, RB Leipzig or RB Salzburg. As such, despite the fact that there is commonality of ownership, there is independent control and management of each club in the eyes of UEFA. So although the rules are quite explicit in that they prevent commonality of control from a shareholding perspective, if Manchester United can be set up and proven to UEFA that they are being operated as a separate legal entity with not one person controlling the activities or a group of individuals controlling the activities of either club or both clubs, then Manchester United may still be able to compete in UEFA competitions, and it would be their aspiration to reach the Champions League. And given the performance on pitch this season, it looks likely that that will happen. So Qatar need to make sure that sporting performance is not influenced by the same group of individuals. There could be commonality between certain back office functions such as finance or the legal departments. However, this wouldn't necessarily translate to on-pitch performance. So if Qatar did take over Manchester United, they have the option to leave the current executive in place to run the club, but it's more likely that the leadership team will be removed and be replaced by people chosen by Qatar. Multi-club ownership is becoming more and more common around the world and in Europe. So this is something that UEFA have already considered and have set their precedent. But it's something that will have to be considered on a continual basis as we have commonality of control throughout Europe and the world as clubs compete at different levels across Europe and internationally. When it comes to the Premier League and the FA, the rules are very explicit once again. As part of the owners and directors tests, it's prohibited for a club or someone owning a club to have more than 10% of an interest in any other club. And when it comes to the Premier League, that also includes associates, connected parties or nominees. But why is it that we see more and more multi-club ownership models? What are the benefits and what are some of the drawbacks? Well, it very much depends on the business model. If we look at the Qatari investment of Manchester United and PSG, these are two clubs competing at the top of their domestic leagues and have the ability to be champions of their leagues, if not champions of Europe. But other models exist which look to create a multi-club model that allows players to develop across a variety of platforms. So the benefits of that would allow clubs to register players in different jurisdictions and move them around their group depending on the age profile of the player and the development that they require. From a pure financial investment and risk management perspective, a diverse portfolio of clubs should be less risky, but it very much depends on the investment. As we know, a lot of football clubs make losses and have high cash requirements, but having a blend of different platforms and different clubs on different continents could well allow for economies of scale, knowledge to be shared around the group, to create a scouting network for players, and ultimately lead to financial success. It's unlikely that that will come in the form of profits, but could be in the form of selling clubs or potentially realizing value from players or not having to spend on players to acquire the best talent in the world. The biggest downside of owning multiple clubs is that potential conflict of interest through commonality of ownership, as we've just discussed. Having clubs under the same ownership model could create a competitive disadvantage or unfair competition or priority given to certain clubs over others. And in that instance, it's the fans that will suffer as a result of a decision that could be made in the boardroom. Cash resources could be a strain. If an owner has multiple clubs all demanding cash at the same time, usually around transfer windows in either summer or winter, and have a constant cash requirement with high wages, then the owner may struggle with where to allocate the cash resources. So in conclusion, should Manchester United fans be concerned, given the precedent that's been set by Red Bull Leipzig and reports to date? If Qatar was to acquire the club, it's likely that it can be set up independently of Paris Saint-Germain, and therefore both clubs could compete in the UEFA Champions League. That's not strictly speaking what the rules say, but given there's a precedent with RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg, there are obviously ways to set up the clubs to be operated on the pitch independently. And therefore this could be replicated. We'll have to wait and see what the outcome is of the Manchester United sale, but this isn't the first and I'm sure won't be the last time we talk about multi-club ownership. If you want to learn more about how we use football as a medium to learn about finance, go to our website at www.footballfinancepro.com. Sign up to our mailing list, subscribe to our social media channels, like the video and share it with your friends. We use our first-hand industry knowledge to be able to share a practical insight into what's going on in football, allowing you to learn about finance concepts using football as a medium. So if that's of interest to you, why not go and sign up? My name's Neil Wood and I'm a football finance professional. Follow us for more.